Hi everyone, it's Neville Nugget time, and it's from my favorite Neville book of all time, The Law and the Promise, and it is from the chapter on page 103 called The Potter. Okay, goes like this. We must actually be in imagination. It is one thing to think of the end, and it is another to think from the end. To think from the end, to enact the end, is to create reality. The interactions must correspond to the actions we would physically perform after these things should be. So what we're doing on the outside. Okay, I'm going to go through that a little bit again. We must actually be in imagination. Now, Neville talks about states, so you have to be in the state of whatever it is you choose. So it is one thing to think of the end. Now, for example, when I wanted to be with my lovely man and in my relationship, I couldn't just think of the end. Okay, I couldn't just think of, oh, we're together and I'm over here in Australia, in Sydney, and he's over there in London. I had to think from London. I had to think from being together there because that's where he was. So thinking from the end was thinking from the places that he and I had been together when we weren't together, as in when we were friends. Okay, so thinking of those things that meant I was living from it. Holding hands, crossing the road, having a coffee at Nero, which is a chain of coffee shops in London, sitting next to him and feeling him next to me while we were sitting in a couch at the Airbnb pub downstairs. I could feel his shoulder next to me. So I had to enact the end. That is how I created the reality. Okay, so the interactions must correspond to the actions we would physically perform after these things would be. So using the senses, I could feel him leaning against me because he's bigger than me. I could feel the weight of him. I could feel his hand. He's got quite big hands, and I could feel the warmth of his hands. I could imagine him picking me up and giving me a hug because he would often do that. He'd see me just grab me and lift me up because I'm a lot smaller than him. So thinking from the end was injecting these ideas into the mind, feeling the feelings from using the senses. In that case, it was touch, it was sight, it was hearing his voice. It was imagining his energy because he's got lots of energy. For me, that was a huge part, was imagining the energy of him. Okay, so that was me thinking from it. So let me just go back a little bit. The interactions must correspond to the actions we would physically perform after these things should be. So my interactions were these things. I would imagine being with him. I would imagine holding hands. I would feel his hand. I would feel the hug. I would see his face because I was looking up at him. So I'd look at his face that way. So it was imagining all those details, looking out your own eyes and imagining it as if it is happening. Not that you're looking at a movie and you're in it. You are looking through. So you are looking like that, you see. You are in the scene. I could see my hands looking down at them. I could see his hand looking across. I'd look down at me holding his hand, and I'd see his hand with his long fingers and the feel and the energy of him. So try and work out which parts you need to do to really inject the living from part. Okay? Living from is a huge Neville Goddard technique. It is easier said than done. It does take practice, but it is possible to do it. And hopefully with this example, it will help you to live in the end and live from. And I'm thinking if it's of use to you, I'll do some more living from using Neville little scenes. If you want to put down in the description any living from it scenes that you would like me to do YouTubes on, if it would help you, write them down in the thread below. Okay? All right. So I'll put the Neville Goddard playlist down below. And I will also put the Neville Nuggets playlist for those of you that have got a bit less time. They're shorter, small bite sizes. All right? Okay. Lots of love. See you.